Facebook and Google team up with media companies to tackle what they assess to be fake news ahead of the French presidential election. Critics cry foul and call the fact-checkers politically biased. U.S. senators introduce a new bill aimed at giving Congress veto power over President Trump in the event he moves to lift Russian sanctions. Well, a German bakery turns the tables on a reported boycott of its store amidst the U.S. president facing incessant media attacks as its Trump cakes proved to be a hit with customers. Also, and in spite of protests and legal objections, the British Prime Minister's Brexit plan finds an overwhelming majority in a House of Commons vote. Live from our International News Centre here in Moscow, you're with RT International just after midday. Welcome to the programme. Facebook and Google have launched an offensive against so-called fake news in the lead-up to the French presidential election in April. The initiative comes after the tech giants were criticised for not doing enough to combat false information during the US presidential campaign. Charlotte Dubinsky takes on the story.
It came into its own during the US election campaign, and now it seems that barely a day goes by without some claim of a story being fake.
Well, here in France, as the country gears up for the presidential election, the fight against fake news is also underway. Now, Google and Facebook have teamed up with a number of news partners to comb through social media sites and to see what passes the litmus test of truth. Now, it's called cross-check. But how will it work? Well, basically, if somebody flags up a story as being potentially untrue, then these news partners will fact-check it.
If the report is deemed fake by at least two of them, then it will be tagged with an icon to show there's something potentially fishy about it. But can these fact-checkers actually be trusted?
This is the most dangerous thing that you could possibly do. You're going to let Facebook or Google or whoever determine what's real? What you're doing is you're allowing a third party, and by the way, censorship does not have to be the government, but you're allowing somebody to act as a filter between you and the truth? It's insane. This isn't censorship. Censorship means changing a few words. This is blocking you from the news, keeping the news from you. This is worse than censorship.
Facebook's fake news detector in Germany has also come under scrutiny because of funding by groups linked to US billionaire George Soros and the establishment media. And what about Google and Facebook? They're trying to guide people through the mass of contradictory information in the run-up to the election, although they themselves have been accused of playing politics. Charlotte Dubinsky, RT, Paris.
BuzzFeed is one of the organisations partnering with Crosscheck, despite the fact it has never been accused of producing fake news. The online media company came under fire last month for publishing a story with, quote, explosive but unverified compromising information about President Trump. Another partner, Bellingcat, is best known for analysing public data relating to the downing of flight MH17 in eastern Ukraine. But the founder of the research service used by Bellingcat described their findings as an example of how not to do forensic analysis. Meanwhile, Facebook has already launched a similar initiative in the US. We asked New Yorkers if they think it'll help stop the spread of so-called fake news.
You heard about the fake news controversy?
Of course. Everybody accuses everybody else of fake news, but I tend to associate most of it with the mainstream media. Instead of giving you what you would call delivering news like reporting, they kind of embellish it so that it meets their political objectives instead of doing what a reporter is supposed to do.
It's not anything I've heard, I've just observed. Everything that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth is a lie.
Donald Trump is responsible, and so is Flynn, for much of the fake news.
I think it's ridiculous. A lot of the stuff out there is not the truth, and they're putting things out and they're getting misconstrued.
I mean, if people had better critical thinking skills, you'd think they'd be able to see through it. So I think there's a lot of deeper problems going on than just that people are posting whatever they want.
Facebook has just come out with this new thing where they want to actually label news agencies that they don't like as being quote-unquote fake news. Have you heard about this?
No, I haven't, but it sounds like a good idea. It sounds like things should be fact-checked.
One side sees something as news and the other side is exposed to it and goes, this isn't anything close to what we believe, and vice versa. So I think you have on both sides an issue. I don't know how you can really regulate it.
I think that's got to be up to you. I mean, listen, if somebody comes up to you and says, hey, do you want to buy Starbucks? I'll give it to you for $500. Would you buy it? You probably wouldn't.
I don't trust any of it at all. No one can tell you what you should believe and what you shouldn't.
Facebook can do whatever they want, and if you don't like what Facebook's telling you about their information, then just don't go on Facebook.
The Trump administration is reportedly drawing up an executive order which could see Islamic State terrorists being housed in Guantanamo Bay prison. A draft document obtained by the New York Times states America remains committed to its battle against terror groups. It also says Guantanamo should be used for newly captured detainees, including ISIL fighters. But several national security officials and legal scholars say the measure could undermine America's efforts to defeat the extremist threat. We discuss that with commentators for and against the move.
Well, I object to the characterization of Guantanamo as a notorious place of torture. I think the prisoners there have been treated very, very fairly, and that's just hysteria from the left calling it a torture chamber.
What your other guest just said is absolute nonsense. Torture took place at Guantanamo pervasively. The FBI observed it, and there's dozens upon dozens of testimonials from people who are victims of torture at Guantanamo.
I just have to say, your guest is the epitome of what's wrong on the left. You know, these people are the most brutal, vicious, I don't even call them humans. They are not entitled to constitutional protections of U.S. residents and citizens.
The answer to the barbarism of the Islamic State is barbarism from the United States. Then what is the point of the battle? It's supposed to be a battle of right against a battle of wrong. Two wrongs don't make a right, and if the United States engages in torture again, as it has done in the past at Guantanamo, whatever toxic lies your guest says, then we've really lost the purpose of the entire war on terror.
Jeremy, I'm sick and tired of the moral equivalence of the left equating people that tear out hearts and eat them in front of people while they're alive, eating victims in front of their own parents, grinding up their remains of people they've slaughtered, and having their parents eat them. If you think that is there's any moral equivalence between that, no, you drew a moral equivalence and said two wrongs don't make a right.
Look, I'm not saying
we are nowhere
there's
near the barbarity in the America. Your yelling is not going to make your point for you, sir. You made a moral equivalence argument. You are dead wrong.
Choose my words carefully. There's a sliding scale of atrocities. Okay, Guantanamo is not, Auschwitz. Understood. Beheading an innocent person is worse than torturing somebody during an interrogation. But the fact is that both represent serious crimes that violate international law and nothing to be proud about.
The primary job of the United States president is to keep America safe, and that's exactly what he's doing. And the left is doing everything they can, the hard left, the anarchist left, to stop him from keeping America safe.
I want to be safe. I don't want my child to, die because he's blown up in a subway in New York either. And among other things, refilling Guantanamo makes me afraid that it is only going to confirm the worst suspicions of people who already dislike America and mean more violence and bloodshed on all sides.
Well, the U.S. president's policies have divided the American public. Whether it's his immigration restrictions or even Twitter habits, the EU has called Trump's America even a potential threat to Europe. However, one bakery in Germany is making Donald Trump all the more easier to digest.